Take it away, Beau.
Thank you, Avery. I appreciate y'all hosting this event for all the business owners and managers in the greater Iberia area. We have on the line with us as well. He was able to join us for a period of time. Is the treasurer for the state of Louisiana, John Schroeder, who we have here, and potentially some of his other staff. I see Mr. David Richard's on as well, who's the program director. So what I'll do is I'll give a quick little overview from a 5,000-foot level and maybe turn it over to the treasurer. That way, I know his time's going to be limited. He might have a couple of things that he wants to add for the purpose of this call. But to give you all a little bit of background on where these dollars came from and what they amount to is the federal government sent down $1.8 billion to Louisiana earlier this year to help us with COVID response. A little bit over half of that was retained on the state level to help with their efforts, and roughly $800 million was available to bring down to the local levels. $475 million of that was retained by, or made available, shall I say, for local municipalities to help with their response work. And $50 million of it was also allocated by the legislature for frontline workers, for those who may have incurred other costs by putting themselves in harm's way by staying at work, and for those critical services that we all needed to help keep our economy halfway afloat. And then the legislature also went ahead and carved out $275 million for this Louisiana Main Street Recovery Program, which we are here discussing today. We opted to partner with Treasurer Schroeder and his staff to coordinate their efforts, or to coordinate it for the business owners. And through their efforts, they are working on getting the grant cycle open. I believe on the 28th of this month is when it's going to start. One of the things to note for all those who are viewing is this is unlike the PPP program on the federal side, which is technically a loan that businesses will either repay or qualify for forgiveness by the federal government. That is not the situation here. This is an actual grant. It's a $15,000 grant that's going to be made available to those businesses who do qualify for it. Treasurer Schroeder, if you want to chime in now, and if you have anything that you would like, just because of your schedule, if you have anything you want to go ahead and share, maybe unmute yourself, share it, and then we can get into the technical weeds once you're able to wrap up.
Yeah, Beau, thank you. And I just want to tell you guys that I was very good friends with former Speaker of the House, Taylor Barra. He and I came together in 2008, and he's a good friend. And I know we had a big changeover in the legislature, but y'all picked a pretty decent guy in Beau. And, he sort of hit the ground running. And this ought to tell you something. We've only had about maybe, 10 legislators so far do what Beau's doing today. So he's taken the initiative. I appreciate it. It's a big challenge. I tell my staff that if you want to know what it feels like to be an entrepreneur, have them walk in one day and say, "Hey, Treasurer, you think you'll run this program for us?" And I say, "Heck yeah, let's go with it." And we haven't stopped. We've only been at it since about July 1. But we're excited that the legislature first had the wherewithal to see and understand how tough it is right now in business. I am a small business owner. My wife's a contractor. We build houses, own a real estate company. We have a lot of rental properties. I've been in and out of different retail businesses my entire business career. So I understand it. I see it. I sent a picture, a little video. I worked out of my business office yesterday. I own a little shopping center outside of Iberia Springs in St. Annie Parish. There was 2 cars in the shopping center, 16 bays, 2 cars, and on a Monday at lunchtime. So I told a friend of mine, multiply that times across the whole country. And it's devastating. So look, the legislature in their good wisdom decided not to let government take all this money, because they would have, and peel some of it off of business. Now, it's certainly just a Band-Aid, but as I tell people, some aid is better than no aid. So we're going to work very hard to make sure we don't have any red tape. And as your treasurer, I tell people I don't like red tape. the tape I use at Treasury is clear. So my goal is to get this money, this checks in your hands as quickly as we can. Some of the things important to know, and Bill, I know David, I see, is on here, so he'll be able to get into the questions. We spend most of our time on these webinars answering questions, and I have another one at 2:30, and I just got off of Hispanic, Asian, and Black Chamber of Commerce webinar for the last hour, and I left them asking questions. But you can go to you can go to my website at latreasury.com. I also always tell the business owners, you know, we have this thing called unclaimed property. A lot of businesses have money in unclaimed property. They never check it. And you can go to latreasury.com, click on unclaimed property, and put your businesses in there, and you'd be amazed how much money is in there for businesses. You can also go to louisianamainstreet.com, which is the website for this program. You can send us emails. I think Beau might have all that information that he can provide to you guys with the phone numbers and the email address. If you want to write this down, we have a call center that's operating from 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. We'll amp that up as we get into the application process, which starts on July 28th. That phone number is 888-795-4947. Again, I'm sure Beau would be happy to send all this information to the chamber and to you guys. You know, we're here to help in any way that we can. I think it's important to know as well that I don't think this money is going to last long. It's $275 million. There's, in the first 21 days, it's set aside for businesses that have received no funding, zero, meaning you haven't received any aid from insurance claims or any federal aid to be eligible to receive a payment in the first 21 days. You can still apply, and I suggest that you do that. You can apply on day one, but if you have received any aid, that will just get set aside to I think it's August 18th when we'll begin processing whatever. So as long as you are claiming expenses that exceed what you have already received, then those would be eligible expenses. And it's important to also understand that this is a reimbursement program. This is not a program that's going to replace lost revenue. So you're going to have to prove that you had expenses. And, you know, some of those expenses could be your rent, your utilities, your equipment rentals, payroll, any expense that you had that is COVID related and you can prove it's COVID related. A good rule of thumb, not that there's not some outside of this, is as I just told the last group, I was asked, could I submit a credit card bill? And I said, well, a monthly statement. I said, well, monthly statements are pretty vague. I know in my business, my CPA doesn't take credit card statements. He'll take the actual bill receipt, but not the statement. So you have 7 days now to sort of get organized, get with your accountant, get with your bookkeepers, locate all your expenses and download them, because you're going to have to, that will all be part of the process when you make application. We believe it's not going to be that difficult of a process. As I said earlier, I want to make it as easy as we can for you to get through the process. Some of the things the basic things that the legislature put in the law is that in order to be eligible, you've had to do several things. One, you've had to you had to at least file your taxes in 2018 or 2019, or open your business by January 1, 2020, and are going to file taxes for this year. You have to be domiciled in Louisiana. Your business has to be 50 employees or less, all the way down to that sole proprietor. You have to have less than 50 full-time employees. So if you have 51, you're not eligible. Let's see. Some of the commonly asked questions from us is all dealing with PPP and SBA. So I want to be very clear. If you received any aid from the feds or your personal insurance, you will have to wait past the 21-day waiting period to apply. And then you can only apply to what you haven't already been reimbursed. You can't double dip. There's also, the legislature set aside $40 million for minorities, women, veteran-owned businesses. So that's in the first 60 days. So for all you ladies and veterans and minorities, we're going to set aside $40 million in that first 60 days, and for first come, first serve. And the whole program is built that way. Now, I think you've been watching the news. There's not a program yet that made it out of a day, 2 at the most. So we do not expect this to be around long. So I encourage people to be prepared, get ready for the application, which starts on July 28th. Have documents ready. Somebody did ask earlier, and this is something that came up with our administrative team today. Let's just say you go in and you start your application and you get an email back that they received and there's something wrong with the application. They get back to you and tell you, you need A, B, and C. You're not going to be kicked out the system. You will maintain your position in the process, but you still need to very quickly respond, because when the money's gone, the money's gone. So there's going to be people anywhere from A to Z in the application process that when we run out of money, we run out of money. Now, the first 60 days, if that 40 million will be set aside, and I expect that's going to go pretty quick as well. Something I haven't talked a lot about that I keep forgetting to mention. So we believe we're going to get some amount of paper claims, and we don't want to punish those in our rural communities who don't have internet, don't have access to technology. Because I mean, if you held a gun to my head today in my own office at home and told me to scan something and email it to myself, you'd be coming to my funeral, because I couldn't do it. So I know that's going to be a challenge. So I tell you, get ready, go scan all those documents and get them put in. We also know that in the countryside, I heard this last week, I still can't believe it, that 4 people in New Orleans don't have internet. So we know that's a big problem, as something that Beau and his colleagues dealt with this year in the legislature. The countryside has a lot of trouble with technology. So this gives you some time to get prepared. But I also know that the businesses that we're shooting for aren't necessarily members of your chamber or economic development groups, and they just go to work every day. They day-to-day blue-collar kind of folks who are just working for a paycheck. So organizations like this have the ability to reach out to those type folks too. And this is more of a humanitarian effort in my opinion, because I would bet you most members or most people on this call, I bet you have already filed for some type of aid. So a lot of this outreach is geared towards trying to find those small businesses that we all do business with. You know, there's a lot of little businesses that I do business with every day that I hope take advantage of this program. So Beau, thanks for calling me. I'm glad I was able to jump on. Beau didn't know if he was on Eastern time or Central time. We eventually got straight, but I'm happy. I got about 10 minutes and can answer any questions, Beau.
Awesome. Mr. Schroeder, I want to go ahead and jump in here. Our first question for you says, what is the start date for incurred expenses?
March 1. So from March 1 to the day you do your application. And some people ask, well, what happens after the application? Well, if we have money still in the pot, you can come back and claim August, September, and October, save rent, for an example. I suggest, some people have talked about not applying to maybe the end of August or the 1st of September. You can do that, but I don't know if there'll be money left, so it starts on March 1 and up until the day you actually make claim.
So thank you for answering that question. And I've just got a second one here for you. Is a copy, of the application currently available as a sample?
You're going to have to try that one more time. You're breaking up.
You're breaking up, Abram.
Gotcha. Is a copy of the application available as a sample?
I think he's asking about the application. Is it available? No, it won't be available to the 28th. Now my friend program administrator is not going to like this, but most people are figuring it out that the application goes live on July 28th. Somebody asked me a minute ago, what time? I said, it goes live on July 28th. Read between the lines.
Look, and one of the things we can do to encourage everyone to start preparing, kind of what the treasurer was saying, is just don't wait until the 28th to get all those items scanned in. If you go on their website, the treasurer's website, they're going to have a list of items that they're going to be asking you for. For example, evidence on your taxpayer ID. You're going to need to have a Louisiana Department of Revenue account number, which if you're doing payroll tax withholdings and whatnot, you should already have that. You're going to need to have all the documentation of the expenses. If you want to, similar to on the PPP, if you want to take copies of voided checks or whatnot, I would encourage all of that. You may even need to go to the Secretary of State's website to download some of your original incorporation documents to show that you actually own the companies. You reach out to your accountant or your CPA to get copies of your 2018 and 2019 tax returns. A lot of times, if you ask your accountant ahead of time, they'll provide you with all that in a PDF format so that you can just have it readily uploaded. But like the treasurer is saying, if you wait until the 28th to start gathering all that, I did the math a second ago. We have with $275 million available at $15,000 a piece. That's 18,333 businesses that'll be eligible to collect the 15,000. So that's not a whole lot of businesses when you look at the entire state. So don't delay.
No, and look, we've already had probably, I don't know what the numbers are today, but I'm sure we've had close to 30,000 views of the website. I think 7,000 plus have taken the quiz. So, I mean, everybody knows about it, and big build up to it. So Mississippi did this sort of in the hours of darkness, but we've had a month to talk about it, get ready for it. We don't expect it to last long. So it's cool that you get with your accountants and get all this done.
Mr. Schroeder, one last question for you before you go. Is it correct that nonprofits are not eligible, but churches are?
Churches are not.
Gotcha.
Nonprofits are not eligible. Some religious organizations are, like bookstores and you have Christian music stores and things like that are religious-based businesses. They're eligible just like any other businesses.
Awesome, Mr. Schroeder, I really want to thank you on behalf of myself and the chamber staff and board for joining us today. If you have any closing comments, feel free to give them to us now.
Well, look, I'm your treasurer. We work for you. My team works for you. If you have any questions, you got a great rep in Beau, and, reach out to us. The stupidest questions one you never ask. So it's not very often. I spent 10 years in the legislature, 9 years on the appropriations committee dealing with all the budget issues. My first time in the 11 plus years I've been in this building now, where we actually could do something really, really positive for small business who don't really take the tax credits or you even know how to use the credit or the tax world when it comes to small business. This is the first time, and I would bet Beau will not get another opportunity like this to help his constituents, small businesses, possibly $15,000 checks. I don't think that will happen again. But let's hope it does not, because it's not necessarily a good thing. And look, I mean to say at all that 15,000 is going to fix your problem, but I tell you, 15,000 is better than no thousand, and it's better than zero. Some is better than none, and I know it's a Band-Aid, but some aid, if you qualify, it's go get it. It's there for you.
Sure. Thanks again for joining us today. And
You're welcome.
Go ahead and toss the conversation back to Mr. Beaullieu, Representative Beaullieu.
Thank you. David, I have a question for you from a tax side. Someone texted me this question from a taxation standpoint. These grant dollars is that taxable income to the business? How do you know how that would be treated from that standpoint?
We haven't gotten any official advice yet, but I don't believe it's going to be taxable income since it's just replacing expenses.
Okay, great. Well, let's go over some of those expenses with everyone, and just to kind of give you all an idea on what you can expect. There's going to be a couple of different sets of expenses that you can consider. One would be those tangible expenses that you use to respond to COVID. It might be the barricades you put up for social distancing measurements, the red tape. It might be a hand sanitizer dispensing, any kind of contactless equipment that you may have begun to use. And as a matter of fact, I was talking to some colleagues earlier, looking at maybe doing some sort of a tax incentive in the future legislation for those who implement contactless equipment in their office buildings. Also, things like laptops and printers that you needed to purchase to allow remote work environment in your business. I know with us and in our company, we went ahead and issued everybody laptops and allowed everybody to work from home. So that would be a type of eligible expense as well. I went to a title place a couple of days ago to get a title transfer on a four-wheeler, and they had a table set up outside. That table would be eligible for the expenses, or if they had a tent to keep you out the weather. So they obviously incurred some expenses to get prepared. But then also the items that are the larger items that I think is what's going to have the program go a lot faster, or the payroll items, maybe paid sick leave if you had employees who had COVID, then you wanted to extend that sick leave for them. I had a discussion with some small business owners, restaurants and bars who did not get PPP and were shut down again the second go around, who had just finished increasing or filling up their freezers again from an inventory where they had inventory spoilage before. All that spoilage from the food or even in the case of a beer, you got what they call it, skunky beer, I think is what the name is. So all of that would be eligible. Those costs that you had to replace inventory would be eligible as well. Labor costs, if you needed to, to have delivery services as opposed to people coming into your business, that would be an eligible cost. And then, utilities, payroll, and rent would also qualify, similar to how the PPP is. We encourage you to get creative with it, but we want you to be able to document it and be able to justify that it was a COVID-related expense. I think for a lot of businesses, it's not going to take very long to get to the $15,000. So if you need to submit more expenses, do so just in case they rule out some of the ones that you thought would have qualified for you prior. I want to go back to something that the treasurer mentioned just regarding to submitting the applications. If you did a PPP loan, I want to reiterate that does not mean you shouldn't apply in the first 21 days. Still go ahead and apply just the same way you normally would. But that'll, if you have all of your ducks in a row and everything's in order, that'll put you at the front of the list once that 21 days is exhausted. So don't look at this and say, hey, the money's not going to be there. We're assuming it's going to go quick, but we don't have any kind of guarantees. So take the effort, go through and complete the application as you would normal. And best case scenario, in 22 days you may be approved for your expenses. Also, make sure you respond to the treasurer's request if they find that some of your paperwork is not in order. We don't want an I not being dotted or a T being crossed to put you on the back burner and not receive it, and then the money's exhausted. So go through it with a fine tooth comb before you submit all of the material to the department, but then also be readily able to respond to them in case there's some kind of a hiccup with the original application. David, is there anything that we've missed? I know the treasurer hit on a lot of what I was going to talk about. Is there anything that from a technical standpoint that we have not addressed that is really important that everyone should know?
Yeah, I would say, we've talked to other states, including Mississippi, who came out early with their program, and asked them about what kind of problems that they ran into. They had, I believe, 9,000 or 15,000 applications their first day. As we all know as well, the frontline workers program had technical challenges on their first day. So we're working hard with our technology partners to make sure that we don't have those same overload or capacity problems. What I want to say about email is we're using email as a primary means to communicate with folks. So after you submit your application online, expect an immediate email coming from the system to confirm that we've got your application. It'll give you your application identification number. And so look for that in your email. Hopefully it doesn't go into your spam box or something like that. But that's the encouraging thing that I'm saying to folks is look to make sure you got a receipt email from us. That's the email address we're going to use when we're communicating to you. We're also going to be as proactive as we can to let people know throughout the process where their application is. The software we're using lets people log in to the system, see their application, even make changes and improvements to it up until a point in time when the grant review team picks that application up and starts working on it. Then we lock it, we work on it, we try to approve as much as we possibly can to maximize your grant amount. And then as we're awarding dollars to people, we're going to be emailing you to tell you your grant has been approved. Here's how much money you're getting. Expect a check within X number of days. The law itself tells us, we have 5 days to get the check out the door once we approve the grant. So we've built systems, partnered with the right technology folks and banks to help move this money down to the businesses, and hopefully they're spending it here in Louisiana. The money you get, keep it inside Louisiana and let it be respent a bunch of times. That'll help our economy the most.
David, you mentioned the check from the payment standpoint. So y'all are going to be sending out physical checks. It won't be direct deposited or anything.
Yeah, we just didn't have enough time, Beau, to try and set up ACH and direct deposit and things like that. It's good old U.S. mail. It's a check coming from the Treasury, just like unclaimed property checks. We can issue thousands of them a day. We have that capacity, and it will be a physical check going to the business address.
Okay. Avery, do we have any questions from any of the viewers?
So I've got one right here. It says, what is the state ID? Is it the same as the revenue account number? And if it's different, where do you find it?
So it's the Louisiana Department of Revenue has their own identifying number. It's the revenue ID number. If you have that, that's great. If you can't find yours, don't let that not be the reason for you making your application. For sure, the main thing we're looking for from an ID standpoint is your federal employer identification number, also known as a FEIN or TIN number. If you're a sole proprietor and you're not an LLC or a corporation, it's your social security number.
Thank you for that. And also, we've got someone right here. Where can they submit questions for after the webinar is over today?
I would, go ahead, David.
We take questions on our call center that's open. Email it to info. Yeah, it's info@louisianamainstreet.com. It's also our those emails go into our call center. We have trained personnel in there to receive and answer your questions.
You can also contact my office if I can help you. If it's a real technical question, I'll be deferring to their department to answer. But if it's a general question, I can help you as well.
All right, we've got another question here for David. It says, what about tracking the progress of the application? Will we need to log in to track the application?
Sir, at any time, so when you go to the site next Tuesday, the first thing you'll have to do is create a user account, so make up a name and your password and that normal typical stuff. And save that information, write it down, whatever you do, to come back to that website subsequent to submitting your application to see the status of what's going on. You'll be able to see notes of what we're doing. We're going to be as transparent as we possibly can to show folks how their application is doing. Also on that website, we're going to show you how many applications we've taken in, how much money we've awarded already, what all of the metrics or the statistics there. We're also encouraging folks, if you come to the website and you're a little late to the game, I know everybody's time is valuable, but something's telling me, go ahead and apply, even if you think that the money's going to run out beforehand. This may be just the justification we need to go back to Washington, D.C. and say, look, we gave that $275 million out to Louisiana small businesses and it helped them, but we have demand for another $250 million on top of that. Look, here's the data to show it. These are applications that we couldn't get to where they've claimed monies that are due to them. That may be just what Representative Beaullieu needs, to go and try to get more grant money to refill the pot, so to speak.
That's a good point. That the federal officials are debating right now a potential for another $1 trillion or something another from a bailout standpoint. There may be nothing else coming down in the future, but there could be, and I would assume that if it's made available again, and we have exhausted the funds, the legislature is going to look at this with a priority, assuming that everything goes well. So I want to echo that what David's saying there.
Awesome. I want to go ahead and address this other question that's come into the chat here, and it asks, do things such as internet and electricity count as expenses?
Yes, utilities in our definition include the internet, your telephone expenses, gas, water, anything that you consider a utility bill from March forward, go ahead and claim it for reimbursement. And we'll do our best to reimburse you dollar for dollar for all of those expenses. Business-related, COVID-related expenses.
Great, so I just want to go ahead and prompt everyone to take to the chat, send in any questions you have, and if not, we're going to start going ahead and wrapping up here. I've got someone sitting in the chat here. Do a monthly small business loan bill, would that apply under this grant?
I don't think that that's going to be an eligible reimbursable expense. So for example, if you are a business and you pay rent, you have a commercial lease and you're paying rent, 100% of that rent cost is reimbursable. If you are a business that happens to own your business, your business location, and you have a mortgage on your building, then it would be the interest portion of that note, not your principal portion. So your accountant can help you figure that out if you're having trouble figuring out what the interest portion of your monthly note is on there. So your loans that you're paying back would be on like a small business loan.
So they also, if you have a home office and you have a mortgage on your house, the interest on the home mortgage would also apply.
Yes, if you're, just like your IRS rules, if you're running your business out of your home, what you claim on your deductions for your home, they are limited. You know that. So you can't claim your whole house.
Right.
Yeah, so that's claimable expenses on this program.
Great. We're going to go ahead and signal for some closing comments from the both of you. If you guys have any other tidbits that you want our viewers to take away today.
David, you go ahead first.
Just want to say, we're working hard. We've got a great team of folks. We want to do this right and get as much money as fast as we can out on the street, but we have to do it responsibly. The laws require that the level of documentation that you have to provide. We're not asking for it just because we want to make you do the work. It's required of us to do that. So the application itself, when you see it, hopefully it's friendly and easy to work through and move through. And another piece that I wanted to say is, if you get to a question and you don't have the documentation for it, but you want to make the claim, go ahead and continue. Just say, hey, I'm claiming $1,000 for this kind of expense. And even though you don't have the supported documentation, move through the application to get to the submission point. You can always come back later and add to your add the documentation to your application. But what I really want is your date and time stamp from your submission, because we're on a first come, first served basis. So we're going to look at the newest, the applications that got in first are going to, that's the order and priority. We're going to look at them.
Great. And so seeing that we put out a call for those last questions, we've got just a few more here that we'll go ahead and toss over to you guys before we wrap up here. We've got Lynn in the chat asking, is one scan of all supporting documents advisable, or several scans for different topics?
I would go with the several scans. Make it easy on the reviewer so they can get through. If you're claiming rent, for example, go ahead and show us a copy of your lease. I think we're going to say, show us a copy of at least one proof of payment that you did. So if you paid your March or April rent, show us a copy of that check, show us a copy of the lease. The two numbers should be the same. And then you go ahead and claim for, March, April, May, June, July.
Great. Last question here. And everyone, if you have follow-up questions, please remember that you can always contact the Department of Treasury at that call center. We'll be posting that information at iberiachamber.org/upnext under resources for today. Last question here for Representative Beaullieu. Is a lease agreement proof for rent?
I think you could couple that lease agreement with some voided checks would be the ideal situation. You'd want to have some proof of payment of that those lease payments. And also, I think I'm seeing some questions come through. There was another one that we may have missed on the credit card bill expenses. The credit card bill itself is not evidence of the expenses. You need to have some sort of documentation of what the charge was for. So if you bought hand sanitizer, to have the Walmart or Bilo or Semino's or whatever on the receipt, and you write hand sanitizer, would not be it. You'd actually want to have the physical receipt that shows what the expense was. You want to be able to document that, not just the credit card bill itself. So I think that was another thing that I saw come through. But look, in closing, gang, this is, like the treasurer had said, this doesn't happen very often. When we see it sometimes from the federal standpoint, but from a state standpoint, for us to be able to aid small business with direct payments like this doesn't happen very often. So I want to encourage everyone in the greater Iberia area in District 48 to take advantage of it. I would like our penetration into the payments to be higher than the other districts and the other areas. I want to be a little bit selfish and make sure that all of our people get taken care of. So that's why I want to make sure that we get this word out. If you have questions, reach out to me. You can reach out to my office. You can email me hse048@legis.la.gov. You can call me on my cell phone, 337-258-8274. If I don't know the answer, I'll try and get it to you. And also that hotline number that the treasurer gave earlier is 888-795-4947. if y'all have any suggestions, any ideas, anything y'all would like me to take into consideration for me to echo your voice in Baton Rouge, please let me know any future legislation that you think would be important to help small business. I want to be the champion for small business, and so anything that y'all have suggestions on, please let me know so that I can fight for you in Baton Rouge. Don't be afraid to reach out. I'll try and return all my calls and emails. And also the treasurer did note we've had 2 really big fines from the treasurer's unclaimed property in Iberia Parish, some 6-figure treasurer unclaimed property numbers from some successions and business dealings. So go onto the treasurer's website and make sure you or your business or any of your family members don't have some unclaimed property that's just waiting for you. Thank y'all. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Avery, and the chamber for putting this on.
Awesome. So we want to thank everyone for attending today, and we also want to remind everybody that the census is still accepting your answers through October. Please do your part. Make sure your voice is heard. Take the 2020 census. Thank you for tuning in today. We cannot wait to see what's in store for Iberia Parish in this path forward. Remember that footage of today's webinar will be made available at iberiachamber.org/upnext, as well as all of the resources that were mentioned today. If you have a suggestion for topics that you'd like to see covered, reach out to us. You can find contact information at iberiachamber.org. Thank you, Representative Beau Beaullieu, and to all of our panelists today for your time. Be well.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Thank you to the treasurer.
Be well, be safe, and have a great afternoon, everyone.